It's July the 17th and Canon just dropped off these two brand new units with us, the Canon R5 Mark II.
And of course, the all-new flagship in Canon's lineup, the Canon EOS R1. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say that these are non-shooting sample models that we received. What does that mean? Well, unfortunately, we cannot show you any pictures taken with these units. We cannot shoot with them, but we do have the specifications, most of them at least, and we're going to run you guys through those specs and share our initial thoughts on these cameras.
Yeah, so first up, let's start off with the R5 Mark II. Now, let's put away the R1. We'll get to that a little bit later. Now, first up is megapixels. This has a back illuminated sensor, 45 megapixel. So that's already one of the many changes over the R5 One. We also have 8.5 stops stabilization, IBIS, in the body. And then we can maybe talk about some of the big advantages in terms of the autofocus system, because Canon has a brand new processor in this unit.
Indeed, so what Canon did here was install a new processor specifically to handle the autofocus and absolutely nothing else. And it is the Digic Accelerator processor, so brand new technology from them, and it incorporates a lot more machine learning algorithms. So what you now have in this unit, additional to the face detect and eye detect and human detect and animal detect and all that phenomenal stuff that you had already, you now have some extra detection mode. So it'll now do horses and trains and planes and all sorts of other stuff. But the main advantage within the system is how it is now a predictive autofocus system. So what does that mean? So just right off the bat, what you're going to find is that the initial thing is it's going to predict where a human is going to be within your frame. It predicts where human head movement is going. So someone's walking through a forest, there's trees in the way, it will automatically predict where and when that person is going to exit behind an obstacle, and it'll be ready to carry on with your autofocus. The other side of this, and what's actually really impressive, and I cannot wait to test it out, is what they call action priority autofocus. And what that does is use that same predictive algorithms to predict where action is going to occur within your frame. Now, right now, this is geared specifically towards sports photography and very specifically towards sports that use round balls, large round balls. So we've got soccer, basketball, and volleyball at the moment. So the idea behind this is soccer players are running around on the field, a ball gets lobbed into the air. The camera's technology will analyze where that ball is going and who is most likely to receive that ball on the other end of the frame, and predictively say and know by some sort of magic, and I assume a lot of math, where it has to focus, who's most likely going to have it. It'll lock onto the face of that receiving player, and you will be ready to start bursting, shooting straight away.
Now, this Digic Accelerator takes autofocus to the next level, as it also allows you to take photos of players' faces, load it into sort of an autofocus priority list. So if you want player 1 to prioritize autofocus over other players, you can do that, and that is fantastic. It also shoots this at 30 frames per second. So it allows you to also do pre-capture. So you press halfway on autofocus, and when you press the shutter button physically, it will allow you to pre-capture at 0.5 seconds. Now, this is something that's available in both stills and also video mode.
In terms of the video performance on this unit, there's also some marked improvements over the Mark I version of the R5. So right off the bat, you're now going to be able to shoot 8K 60p RAW, 4K 60p RAW, 4K 120 non-baked in 4K finally from Canon, thank you.
With audio.
With audio, yeah, indeed. There's also a variety of codecs to choose from, including XF HEVC, which is a little bit more compact, a little bit more compressed than some of your older codecs units. And in addition to that, you also have Canon's notorious C-Log 2 and C-Log 3 in this unit.
Now, those file sizes you mentioned are massive, and of course that's going to generate some heat, and there's ways to combat that. So this unit actually has a built-in vent There's no fan in this, but we'll talk about the fan later when we talk about the extra accessories for this. When we look at the camera body, there is also some other changes. Obviously with the vent, makes it a little bit fatter. You also have a tally lamp in the front, that is great. Now there's also a brand new battery in this unit, it's the LPE6P, and this is going to be very important for those crunchy video modes and also when you're doing high frame rate. So if you want to utilize the speed of this camera, you will need that new battery. Now something I also noticed on this camera visually, the viewfinder is massive.
Yeah.
That is a great addition, very bright, and I really like the size of it. Now also in terms of some changes in the menu, another great thing I love is when selecting your video modes, the menu is a little bit neater and easier to select your frame rate and different codecs. That is also another great addition.
Now in addition to that, you also now finally, thank you Canon, have a full-size HDMI over here. Yes, you've got USB-C, you've got mic in, headphones out as we would expect. No LAN port though.
And there's ways they fix that actually with 3 brand new accessories.
Indeed.
We've only got 2 here, but we can talk about the third one.
Yeah, so kick it off with the most basic unit over here is essentially a battery grip that allows you to have 2 additional batteries.
As per normal.
As per normal, yeah. So doubling up on your battery life, very handy, and of course gives you that vertical shooting options. Okay, so there's a version of this battery grip as well that has a LAN C port built in, so it gives you all of that extra connectivity, easy streaming, FTP upload, very easy, very nice to have. What is a lot more interesting though is that grip.
As we said earlier with the heat.
Indeed. So first thing you'll notice on this grip, there's an intake over here and a feed out here, which lines up absolutely perfectly with the vent on the bottom of this camera. Now this grip actually has a fan built in, sucks in from the front, blows up into the camera, vents through, really reduces the heat built up in this unit, and that's going to give you that ability to shoot your 8K 60p in RAW and not really have to worry about any heating problems. Obviously, we will test this when we get an actual unit in hand, and we'll tell you guys exactly how long you'll be able to shoot for continuously. But that is a very cool accessory, and I really like that Canon's brought this out. Very nifty.
Now let's head over to the big boy in the room, the Canon R1. Now there's a lot of beefy performance specs in the R1, but first up, the sensor. This is a 24 megapixel back illuminated sensor that's going to ensure super good low light performance and also a very, very fast sensor readout, which is going to help you a lot with speed and also rolling shutter in video.
Yeah, so just in terms of the speed of this unit, so what you're looking at is raw burst of 40 frames per second continuous out of this unit. It also does the pre-capture thing, and exactly the same as in the R5 Mark II, you have a half a second pre-capture on it as you are focusing essentially through the unit. So that half a second pre-capture will give you 20 frames, and it's essentially capturing those 20 frames the whole time until you actually full depress, and then it fires off at 40 frames per second, which is pretty phenomenal tech. The other big thing here that's coupled to that sensor is of course the inclusion of that same digic accelerator processor that we just spoke about. Now a lot of the autofocus performance is exactly the same because yes, the R5 Mark II's autofocus is pulled directly from Canon's flagship. And I always love seeing that kind of thing. Sort of like that technology trickling down. We speak about it in other brands. Canon does the same thing. I absolutely love it. But there is one key difference. Because this is a completely different sensor architecture, it now includes a cross-type pixel layout. I don't exactly know the details of it yet, and I don't fully know how to explain it to you, but what I do know is that it is better. It's better than what you're going to get in the R5 Mark II, and it's better than what you're going to get on pretty much anything else on the market right now. So you still get all of that predictive algorithms, all of the action priority shooting modes, all the new tracking tech that's included into this unit. But that cross-type layout on the sensor, what Canon calls their dual pixel intelligent focus, is essentially making it more accurate, faster, able to pick up finer details, finer focusing details within your frame. And in theory, that could make this the best autofocusing camera on the market. And just like with the R5 too, I can't wait to get my hands on a shooting model.
So it sounds to me like the R1 is built for good low light and super fast speed. Now when we jump to video, this guy is able to record 6K RAW internally. You can also do 4K 120, and this is going to be also available in various different modes, 422 10-bit. You can shoot in the C-Log 2 and also C-Log 3. So also as a video machine, coupling that with low light performance, the good sensor readout, amazing autofocus, this guy is going to be a big contender as a very good all-rounder.
Now in terms of the body of the R1, well, there is one thing that's unmistakable. It's eerily similar to an R3, but there's some differences here. It's a little bit taller, a little bit thicker, a little bit wider as well, which is actually a very nice thing. So personally for me, the R3's grip was always a little bit too small. I think I mentioned it in our R3 review a couple of years ago. This unit though, nice and deep, nice and thick, fingers fall perfectly to the shortcut keys over here, which of course are completely assignable to whatever functions you want. Really nice. The other thing to mention here is that they have a completely new surface on the rubbers over here. So I don't exactly know what they call it. I don't know what the material is, but it feels very good, very solid. Like you are not going to drop this thing at all. On the grip as well, you now have a lock on your memory card cover over here, which is very nice to see. So no accidentally opening that at all, down and out. And of course you now have two CF Express Type B card slots. No SD card in here. It's a flagship. You need the speed, you need the best. That's pretty much what you're getting over here.
Yeah, if we look at the viewfinder, this thing is massive.
Yeah.
And they've improved on that quite a lot, especially with the new eye control. There's more sensors in this, making it much faster, much more responsive, more accurate. They've also now put in a full-size HDMI slot, your usual USB-C mic input headphone. You also have your LAN-C port as well. You also have your flash, so if you do want to shoot in studio, great for that. We also have the LPE19 battery, and it's also backwards compatible. So in terms of body, really good. It's actually not heavy. Like I was expecting it to be like super heavy and tanky, but it feels good and it's not too heavy. I think it's quite a nice setup from Canon. So overall, very cool launch here from Canon. Really cool cameras they brought out, really cool accessories actually. I wasn't expecting these grips at all. But when you look at these two cameras, I think a lot of people were probably expecting higher megapixel on the R1. So I'm really excited to sort of test this properly in low light, because I think that's where this camera is going to shine. Is the low light capabilities and of course the crazy speed that we have in this camera. Really excited to also check out the R5 II, sort of play with that raw internal, because yeah, having that raw internal video is amazing. And then also 45 megapixel back illuminated sensor sounds great to me.
Yeah, so you touched on it just now when you mentioned that you were expecting a little bit more megapixels out of an R1, the flagship in Canon's lineup. And I have to say, I'm on that same boat with you, because I was also expecting a little bit more right off the bat. Because initially there were leaks, you know, they were going to have 50 megapixel sensors and, you know, crazy burst rates and global shutter and all sorts of stuff like that. And when I saw these for the first time, I was a little bit disappointed. You know, just going to put it out there, a little bit disappointed. But then I realized something. Neither of these two cameras are made for me at the end of the day. Right? I am not a sports photographer. I do not shoot for the press. I am realistically not even a hybrid shooter, you know? Okay? I have a different camera for every application that I could possibly think of. And I'm incredibly spoiled because, you know, you and me both can walk into the store back here and take anything we want off the shelf when we want to go shoot, okay? And that kind of made me realize where these cameras are pointed at and where they're aimed at. And that also a little bit in conversation with some guys from Canon, you know, saying sort of where these are aimed in the market. In terms of the research that they did with these two cameras and where they are aimed, it's not necessarily about taking on anybody else, okay? It's not about having the most megapixels, the highest burst rate, because Canon believes that that is not necessarily the most important thing. And after thinking about it, I kind of agree with them. If you had more megapixels in the R1, I'm gonna start there. If you had more megapixels in the R1, maybe you had to sacrifice something else. Maybe you didn't have 40 frames per second burst. Maybe you still did, but maybe you didn't have what will now undoubtedly be the best autofocus system that money can buy. Because there's always trade-offs in these systems. There's always some things that you have to give up to have something else. In the R5 Mark II, I was also expecting more. I was expecting higher megapixels, faster burst rates. But what you have is a whole new sensor, a new sensor technology, new autofocus system. So in my mind, what's that going to deliver is a more accurate camera, a more precise camera, a camera that hits the mark more often. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I'd rather have professional tools that are more accurate more of the time and deliver me a more usable result 40 times per second, as opposed to trying to chase, you know, 120 frames per second. And if that is what Canon manages to deliver here, more accuracy, more precision, 99.9% of the time, then I think they're on the right path and they might have winners here. But at the end of the day, we need to get these units in hand and actually test them. So for now, judgment is reserved. But I am impressed.